So, okay, we're recording now. Yes, we are recording the webinar because there are some people who, for some reason, have not been able to make it. So we are recording. And if you are enjoying the event, if you hear some gems, please do post on social media. So please tag us on @WorshipTUK. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Just let everyone know what you've enjoyed and what you've heard. And we have a chat. So if you haven't posted in the chat, let us know, where are you dialing in from? I know WT is, global. So just let us know your name and where you are dialing in from. And if you're enjoying the event, please let us know in the chat as well and interact with us. We have about 40 minutes for a panel Q&A, and then towards the end, for about 40 minutes, it will be your time, the audience, to ask whatever questions that you would like. To do that, at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A button. So please put your questions in the Q&A box and not in the chat. So let's get started. I'll just introduce our wonderful panel. First up, we have Tony, who is an enterprise relationship manager at LinkedIn. Welcome, Tony.
Great. Remember to unmute, thank you.
Welcome, great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
And then we also have Tobi, who is the founder of TechTee. Hi, Tobi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. And then we are joined by Abigail, who is a B2B editor at Future Media. Abigail, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And then we have Anu, who is a tech recruiter. Welcome, Anu.
Hi, everyone.
So let's start off by asking our panel, if you can briefly just introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your career and what you do, but also what attracted you to a career in tech. So if we start with maybe Tony, if you want to just let us know.
Hi everyone. So as Vanessa said, I'm an enterprise relationship manager, going to be an account director. So if I refer to myself as account director, it's because that's going to be my job title as of July the 1st.
Yes, promotion.
I work for LinkedIn, selling to their enterprise clients. So what I will be doing is I will be selling 3 lines of business. So that'll be our learning line of business, our hiring line of business, and our engagement line of business. So the whole talent solutions product suite. And I wasn't originally in tech. So I started my career in recruitment back over 10 years ago now, so we're not going to talk about the time. And I went straight into media. So when I moved from agency to in-house, I went to media, working for the likes of BBC and Dentsu Aegis Network. And I absolutely loved media. It's full of wonderful creative people. There's a lot of flexibility there. However, I did see the way tech was moving, and it was moving very fast. And I really wanted to get into that space. So I found my role via networking. I spoke to the right people. I had a criteria of 5 tech companies that I wanted to join. I will say even one of those things in my criteria was that they must serve food, because I was like, I wanted to save money. And from there, I was able to connect with different people in those organizations. I had loads of conversations and loads of interviews. And I got into tech as a recruiter. And thankfully, through my work through networking at LinkedIn, I was able to shift my career from a recruiter to now being an account director in the sales suite.
Thanks for letting us give us that insight. And Tobi, what about you?
So I started off, I've always been a designer, so I love design in almost every aspect. So very early on, I started doing graphic design and just random stuff like that. But when I went into interface design about 12 years ago, a thing called, one of the software languages called CSS started to grow in popularity, and for web development. So because of that, I picked up some software languages. I taught myself via Shepherd's Bush Library textbook almost 12 years ago. And I have been a software developer ever since. I went through a very crazy educational process in higher education. It wasn't quite for me, but I still made it work. It's a long story. I won't bore you guys all with that. But throughout the entire process of my education, I was developing software for local estate agents and a bakery in Birmingham at one point, you know, very random things that I'd managed to fall into. From then on, once I finished education, I contracted for a little bit. I worked at the BBC through an apprenticeship, and then I did a little bit of work with the BBC as a software engineer. Then I went into a little bit of contracting. Then I started my own business as a digital agency / software house. So I founded TechTee 4 years ago. We provide digital strategy, user experience research, design, and software development for companies of all sizes. And that's pretty much been it for me for the last 4 years. It's as a founder at the moment, it's a lot more speaking to clients, kind of liaising with key stakeholders and other businesses to get more business. But one of the things I still try to maintain, I still do maintain, is software development. So I still spend about 40% of my time literally writing code and designing software. And that's pretty much been my history in a nutshell, very small nutshell.
Thank you. And I'm really loving how each of our panelists have such different, I guess, journeys and expertise. And I guess that takes me to Abigail. You're a journalist by background, so do you want to just give us a bit more of a breakdown about your career and what you do, and then how did you move into tech?
Yeah, so I essentially didn't know about tech at all. I didn't know about tech journalism at all. So I started off doing fashion journalism. I studied that for my undergrad. And then I quickly found that when I finished uni, there wasn't really opportunities out there, but I hadn't ruled out any kind of journalism roles. So I know a few of the people I knew in my class had only been targeting like the bigger guys like BBC and CNN, that kind of stuff. But I was like, I'm just gonna apply for everything. And lo and behold, I didn't get a single job. So I did a master's. I was like, you know what? They're not gonna turn me down if I do a master's. So I went and found one of the most prestigious journalism schools. I studied broadcast journalism at City. And then it did open up more opportunities, I guess, doing the master's. I was able to then branch out and do a bit of work for ITV and then a bit of work for Channel 5. But I knew I didn't want to freelance. So my duty was to find a job within a short space of time. And I had someone that also studied with me, and he was an editor at my former company, and it was a tech company. And I knew nothing about anything to do with, because they focused on data centers, cloud technology, cybersecurity, and I had no experience whatsoever. And I just thought, I'm still going to apply, so I'm still going to go there and pretend. So I did a few Googling, tried to sound as professional as I could. I think the fact that we went to the same uni was more of the reason why I got the job, if I'm being really honest, because as much as the preparation I did, it wasn't, to me, sufficient enough. And the sector itself is so vast. And now looking back on that, I was thinking, how did I get the job? Anyway, got the job now. I was there for 2 years. It was fantastic. It was a front-facing role. So I was traveling across the world, reporting different kind of technology news, interviewing software companies and data center companies. And yeah, it was really brilliant. And then I then decided to move jobs because after the COVID and everything else, the salary, to be honest, wasn't enough. The travel was making it fun. So I was like, oh, even though my salary is not the greatest, I'm enjoying it. I get to go to Singapore and all these lovely places. But then obviously lockdown, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna just be sitting at home and then also just have this salary and then be waking up at 2 in the morning to interview someone in Singapore. So I was on the hunt for a new job. And luckily my editor who employed me the first time said, oh, there's a post going up at Tech Radar, where I am now. And he was like, I think you should apply. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll apply. I applied, got the role, thanks to a really nice recommendation. And now I focus on web hosting, servers. I do a bit of crypto on the side, crypto news, but that's just for my personal enjoyment, nothing to do with technology, more finance. But yeah, so it's been a journey from studying to falling into tech. But the main thing I took away from that is just I didn't rule out any tech journalism roles, because I knew that eventually I was going to understand it, and eventually I'm quite bright, so I should be able to get on board with whatever they're writing about. But yeah, so that's my journey.
That's really great. I mean, I'm like, I want your old job, because now the travel's opening up and I love to travel. I might send me the JD, because that sounds like fun. But I think it's great how you've been able to learn as you've moved on. So thanks so much for sharing. And Anu, if you want to share how you've your career and your background.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. So I am a recruiter. I've been recruiting for about almost 8 years now. So I consider myself a generalist, but though I have been a generalist within tech companies. But my first roles were within agency, which is what most recruiters start off at. And I was recruiting technology within banking, so mainly within Barclays, Lloyds, and a lot of hedge funds and stuff like that. But I realized I actually really enjoyed the role, not so much the sales side, just more actually the people side of things. And I started researching into it, and I realized that there's a lot of companies that hire in-house recruiters. But what I found was that I liked the landscape more of the big tech companies, of how they structured their internal recruitment functions and how much money and effort they put into it. And I think that's what attracted me to tech. And I was like, well, these are products that I use, these are products that I like, these are the companies I want to work for. And I generally just said, like, I want to work for, well, I said, for either Google, Facebook, Netflix. And I've worked for 2 out of 3 right now, so Netflix hopefully one day. So I kind of worked my way up, really hustled. It was very hard because I was a university dropout. So I really had to work hard to prove myself and prove that I was good at my job. So I've been doing that for some time now, and I've kind of dabbled between senior leadership and also more recently doing university programs. I'm now moving into Facebook, specifically focusing on that kind of, I guess, the gap between they're not senior, but they're also not university graduates. So I'm kind of coming into a new team that's been created at Facebook now, recruiting software engineers that have probably about 2 to 3 years experience. So it's exciting to me because it means it's a new team and I get to build and grow, which is something I've done previously at Deliveroo when I helped build out their first kind of student programs offering within Europe and also in the UK as well. So I'm really happy to answer any questions you guys have regarding quite a lot of roles, because honestly, I recruit marketing, engineering, finance, like a lot of roles, sales. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions as well once we get to the Q&A section.
Brilliant. I mean, what a just phenomenal panel. I mean, we've read your bios, but just hearing your career journeys, it's just incredible. And I might just stick with you, Anu, because you touched on a few things, and kind of bringing to my next question. We can start with you, and then if anybody else wants to chime in, please feel free to. But just thinking about the global pandemic, it kind of made people sort of force them to stop and reflect on their careers. Some people lost jobs, and many people are exploring new sorts of avenues. And you mentioned about not having a degree, and I wanted to find out how can people sort of use their skills to then transfer them to a career in tech. So maybe they don't have a degree, for example, or maybe they might not have experience in tech, but what would be your advice in really sort of thinking about, okay, well, what skills do you need to kind of really kind of get your foot in the door if you don't have, I guess, the kind of qualifications?
I think the most important thing, not just thinking about the company, but also thinking about why you'd want to work for the company. Because within doing that and kind of having that passion, it makes you really research the type of teams and the kind of people they have at their company. So for me, I personally would look at LinkedIn. I'd look at people's career progress that did the same job I did and see where they started. And I noticed, some people started as coordinators and worked their way up. Some people started as agency. So within that, it's not just about, I want to work for this company, but what do you want to do? What do you think you can offer this company? So if it's in a role within sales, if it's a role within customer service, because customer service function in a lot of these companies is huge. So if you have customer service experience and you get a full-time role there, these companies have a lot of internal movement happening. And most of the time when people are there for 5-6 years, they've had at least 2 to 3 jobs. So if it's customer service and you have that kind of experience, if it's first line support, if it's, even if it's just a very junior exec role, it's getting your foot in the door. And I was willing to take a bit of a drop when I first started. So my first in-house role was at Sky. It wasn't my dream company. It was very far from my house, but I kind of was like, okay, let me get my step in. It was actually kind of almost a demotion to what I was doing before. But I was like, I want to get my foot into one of these big companies in-house. So I was willing to do that. And I think it's having that balance of knowing what am I good at and what can I bring value to in that company so that I am able to move around, be promoted, or even move into another function. There's so many different teams in these companies, and it's not always the most prettiest, alluring role when you're looking on LinkedIn or, you know, you're looking in Indeed. But if you really want to get into this industry, that's kind of, you have to look at those roles as well, because you can make the best of it. And a lot of these companies do a lot of projects as well. So you're not just doing your day to day. A lot of the times they're actually asking you to, hey, there's this project going on. Would you want to help out with it? So I would say look into stuff like that. There's so many different avenues getting into these companies.
That's really good advice. And Tony, I was going to come to you and get your insight.
Yeah, and I completely agree with Annie. Annie is absolutely right. Know why and be willing to be flexible to get into a company, because once you're in there, there's a lot of movement. I will also add on to that, in my time when as a recruiter, it's really important that people know what they're applying for. I found sometimes that people apply for jobs and they may have the skills, but I, as a recruiter with X amount of jobs and hundreds of applications, don't have time to interpret your CV to suit the job that you're applying for, or to interpret your cover letter to suit the job you're applying for. So really understand, what are you applying for? And then how do my skills apply to that role? Whether they be transferable skills or direct like for like, make sure that's communicated really, really clearly on your CV. I may look at a CV for 10 to 20 seconds because I know my customer really well, which is the hiring manager. I know the company really well. I know what I'm looking for. So just be very clear in how you communicate those skills and those attributes that you have and how they apply for that specific role you're looking to apply for, especially if your skills are transferable and they're not directly like for like. And I think sometimes that's where people sometimes drop the ball. And I've talked to some fantastic people that just couldn't communicate correctly their skills and how it applied.
Really good advice. I wanted to just move to Tobi, because you have run a business for a long period of time, 4 years. And what kind of skills do you think you need to be a successful founder in tech?
Ooh, patience is probably the number one. It absolutely is not easy to be in the technical field as a business owner, because I think one of the things we can all agree on is how fast tech moves, right? And then not only is it moving fast as an observer, it's moving fast for us because we are developers. So not only are we like, oh, it's moving fast, we're building this technology. So it's moving fast because we're building it that way. So not only do we have to keep up, we need to maintain a level of kind of innovation. So patience is a really, really big thing. And then there's just a level of being on your game. I don't know how other way to kind of like express that, in the sense that I'm kind of just always on, always looking, because there is tech in absolutely almost every area of the world at the moment, right? So wherever you look, there's some form of technical element, because it's this kind of software is this kind of thing that people see as it doesn't take much in terms of resources. It's very quick to produce. There are loads of technical resources all over the world, and it produces these amazing results, right? So yeah, let's get some of that in there. So being aware of what's happening kind of like all the time is generally what it takes to kind of be a founder in this business. But I want to touch on something some of the ladies have said already. And I think it's very, very important to differentiate between working for a technical company and working in tech. And I think that's what confuses younger people who have been working in any respect for more than a couple of years, I think fully understand this. But whenever I'm ever speaking to someone who's in uni or college, they're kind of like, oh, I don't know how to get into tech. And I'm kind of like, but what do you do? And they're saying, oh, I do law, but I want to get in tech. It's perfectly fine. I think technical companies at the moment, well, now have become these huge conglomerates, right? So they need someone in absolutely every respect. One of my favorite videos to ever exist online is, I can't remember the name of the company, but what they do is they interview people who have really cool, quite random jobs in technical companies. And there's one very specific one about this Asian American woman who earns $120,000 as a hairdresser in Microsoft. So her whole thing is, I work in tech, because she works in the Microsoft building, but she's a hairdresser, and she kind of, at the time, this video is about 4 years old, but at the time she was 40, and she says, I'm going to retire here because I can. And that's the special thing about working in technical companies. They have this great ability to give you longevity. I worked for Apple at some point, and I met people that had been working for Apple for 15 years. And I was kind of like doing my numbers, like, has Apple been, I'm a big fan. Do you know what I mean? I'm constantly watching this company. Has Apple been around for 15 years? So there is that great ability to do whatever you specialize in. My advice is always, what are you good at? What do you like? Is it law? Is it data sciences? I remember speaking to some students yesterday, and one is a big geologist. She likes rocks and fossil fuels. And right now, Apple is doing a lot around fossil fuels and green energy to power their future motor vehicles, right, in theory. But they're looking for geologists. And you will come in to a technical company on a 10, 20-year tender to work for them as a geologist, but you're under this kind of tech umbrella. So if you understand that you can work for tech, you can work in a technical company under the guise of tech, but you can very much do what you're passionate about or what specialist skill you have, because it's all fun and games going into tech. But the thing about working for technical companies is it's a lot more fast paced. It's a lot more kind of like, the turnover is crazy competitive in comparison to, let's say, almost any other industry. I think tech and banking, you can pair them together. Everything else moves in almost snail pace in comparison, right? So if you kind of consider that, all my little spiel as a whole, that's kind of my interpretation of working in a technical field or being a founder within tech.
That is amazing, amazing advice. And especially just that last bit of insight around just like, you know, really that geologist and a hairdresser. I mean, there is like you said, a role for every single person in a big tech company. So I think my challenge to everyone on this call is to really think about where could your role be, and have a search online. So thanks so much, Toby, for sharing that. I'm going to move on to the next question, and I'll go to Abigail. I mean, just thinking about some of the challenges working in tech, it's, you know, it's still, I guess, it has got a long sort of history, but it's still kind of like an emerging industry with loads of different things happening, new insights. You know, what have been some of your challenges that you've faced working in tech?
I think I'm going to mirror what Toby said about how fast-paced the industry is. So, for example, as a journalist in tech, you could write about a story and within seconds, the company could have had a new development, had found something else new, and then the story becomes outdated, and it just keeps on moving so fast. Like, I can't imagine how people actually in the companies are keeping up. I'm sure they don't sleep because it's crazy. So the challenge of, you know, trying to keep on top of the news, you always feel like a novice. I always feel like I'm not, you know, the brightest in the bunch because there's a new technical term that's come out, and trying to keep on top of, you know, things like that. If you're talking about cPanels, if you're talking about websites, just new developments is the main, I think, the main challenge that, you know, no one can ignore. So that's my main thing.
Brilliant. It's the fast pace. Anybody else want to chip in terms of some of the challenges that you think people need to be prepared for working in tech?
I would say the autonomy within tech. I think that in a lot of other industries, I would say, okay, I can only ever really say from another industry I worked in was within banking when I was recruiting specifically within banking. And the roles were defined, the hierarchy was defined, your career progression was defined, everything was very defined in those companies. But what I found was that in tech, there was nothing defined. So people would ask me, oh, what's the career trajectory? And I'd be like, well, what do you want to do? You know, I was like, I have somebody in my team who used to, you know, be a product manager, and now they decided, actually, I really love recruitment, and they're in the recruitment team. So there's no defined, like, this is what your career trajectory is. This is what in 3 years you're going to be. This is what they will tell you what they expect from you, and they believe that you're smart enough and capable enough to just do it. And sometimes that can be exhilarating, but it also can be really scary, because it's like, oh, really? You really think I can do this? So I have to just do this from the start? Who do I speak to? Just speak to people. Go have meetings. Go have, and that happens quite a few times of a lot of jobs. It's like, okay, well, we need this done. But nobody's done this before, by the way. So you will be the first one doing it. Good luck. Here's the budget you have. If you need something, come back to us. And it's just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to have to just create something. So I think if you're especially like a good, and most tech companies do have this, it's quite an autonomous place you're going to be in. And I think you should be ready to know that they're going to believe in you. So it means that you're going to have to really step up and really drive what you said you could do, let's say in an interview, or if you're having one-to-ones with your manager. But I would say, I think that was the thing that I had to get okay with. But yeah, it was a bit tricky at first.
Yeah, just sort of diving in the deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share one of the challenges? Or let's move on to the best bits then. What are some of the best bits? So Tony, I'm going to go to you. You said earlier food was priority. I know a lot of these tech companies, they provide breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, everything. So what are some of the best other bits?
Besides the myriad of perks, I don't know what it is about tech companies, but they will throw everything and the house at you to stay with them, whereas food or gifts or money, whatever. But that's one aspect of it. And if that's your motivation, great, whatever you need for you to get into an organization. But I think for me, the best part of it is being able to be kind of the captain of my own ship. One thing that's really important to me is that I'm an autonomous worker. I like to be in charge of how my career is going to move. I don't really like people to, I've had in my past careers, people try and get in my way and block me and stop me from doing things. And one thing I found in a tech company is that any idea I had, I was pretty much given the go ahead. Like Annie said, that they kind of just assume that you can do it. So it allowed me, when I came to LinkedIn, to throw the first Black Recruitment Networking event, because I was just there and I was like, great, we've never done one. Can I do it? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. And it allowed me to make a shift in my career without people turning around telling me, oh, we don't think that you can move from recruitment to sales. It doesn't make sense. It was very much, what do you want? Tell us what you want and let us support you. And so it allows me to shift and change and move. And it means that I know where I am today is not going to be where I am in 2 years' time or 3 years' time or 10 years' time. And I'm glad that I have real control over that to move forward. I'm not going to say every tech organization is like that. There are big conglomerates, they have processes, they have ways they work. But if you can find an organization that realigns with your culture and values, that allows you to do those things, the sky's the limit.
And what about you, Toby? I guess being an entrepreneur, what are some of the best bits about being an entrepreneur in the tech space? There must be some.
Because there are a lot. I think being an entrepreneur in any respect, as you can imagine, people say all the time, it's not all the glitz and glamour. It's a lot of late nights, no sleep, ruling work and whatever. But I come from as a technologist, right? So I write code. I'm a dork. Technology really excites me. I kind of like writing code and say, I made that move. I made that happen. So from that respect, I actually get a lot of joy from that part of things. I get to build practically anything I want. I remember 2015, I was still at university at the time, and a friend of mine came to me with an idea. We sat and we spoke about it for a couple of hours. And next thing you know, we had built a whole web concept, a whole concept of a business. And just like that, it was born. And because I have the technical skills, I could make it happen. And we made it happen. And it's the ability to kind of be able to create whatever I want whenever I feel like it. Plus I've got a team now. So literally ideas pop into my mind at like 1 a.m. and now I can just type it into the Slack group. By the morning, it's part of our standard morning chat about how can we build this. So that ability to actually build, to actually do is really exciting for me. And I think that's what people should also see when they think about working in technical companies or working in tech. They can take whatever skills that they have and contribute in their own specific way to something really big and something quite cool, to be frank. Tech is pretty cool, you know, companies shooting from left, right, and center and all creating absolutely amazing things. So I think it's the creative aspect of what tech is, or what people define as tech today. And that I know I'm simplifying it by saying you can just go off and make things, but yeah, in the grand scheme of things, you can just go off and make things. And to me, very exciting.
That is really, really exciting. Having that just freedom just to go and do that it's really priceless. I just want to have another call. So I can see there's some movement in the chat. I'm going to ask maybe sort of 1 or 2 questions, and then we're going to dedicate the rest of the webinar to the attendees. So please use this. This is, you know, a once in a lifetime opportunity. They've worked in some of the biggest companies. We've got a Forbes 30 under 30 listy on this call. Like this does not come around often. So please put your questions in the Q&A because this is really about you learning from our wonderful panel who have given up their evening to share their knowledge and insight. So the Q&A button is at the bottom of your phones, or the bottom of your screens. Please do put your questions in there and then we will get them answered. So my last question to the panel is really looking at, I guess, the application and interview process for jobs in tech. And I might talk to you, Tobi, a bit, I don't know, in terms of maybe around pitching, around getting clients on the business aspect. But if we look at sort of like the application and interview process for a job, what were some of your key lessons that you learned when you were actually behind, like as in being an interviewee? If you can just share some of your experiences, any lessons learned, anything that you wish that somebody would have told you, just for our audience to sort of take away in terms of really standing out in the application process and then getting that job.
Definitely. So I've actually been on every side of this fence. So I've been interviewed. I interview at places. I have been the interviewer working in companies, Apple, BBC. I've interviewed people to come into our teams. And then as an entrepreneur, I pitch to clients. And then I also interview staff to come into my team. So it's all a mess in terms of just interviewing. But I'll take it in 2 parts, right? Because I've interviewed people for technical roles and non-technical roles. If we go for the non-technical roles, which I probably assume a good majority of people on this call are coming from that position they're coming from, like I mentioned before, you have a specialist skill that is applicable to this technical company. They're not just going to start asking you, let's take the geology example, I'm going to roll with that. They will definitely do a geology piece. But then there will be also those relevant to tech, relevant to how this can be transferred into the technical side of things that makes them money, because that's what they're there for, right? So I think it's one of those things where if you want to go and work in a technical company or under the guise of tech, and you're a hairdresser or whatever, let's take the hairdresser example. One of the things I really loved about that video is she was a hairdresser, and what won her into, or what got her into Microsoft, is that she said she can do, I don't know, a Brazilian blow dry or something in 20 minutes. So if you can imagine a whole bunch of kind of VPs and whatever are coming in, they have 21 minutes spare between the meetings, right? And they need a haircut or they need a blow dry. And that woman is the one woman that can do it for them. So that's how quickly she was able to get into a company like that. She used her standard skills and she found out how applicable it was to that technical company. The people that needed those haircuts didn't have much time, and she can make it do with a little amount of time. And coming from the technical side of things, I have to admit, this is if you want to interview as a software developer, try. I don't want to say you have to, because it's now moving so fast. At anything other than a junior role, you want to get in and you want to immediately make them understand that you know what you're talking about. And if you don't, speak theoretically. So many times when I used to interview, I used to say, to be frank, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know, or I can't remember. But if I was to spitball it, if I was to say now, or I would walk them through a process of me finding out. So if they're asking me to define a function, can't remember off the top of my head. There's only so much, there's only so much one can remember or cram for an interview, especially if you've got lots going on. So I don't know at the moment, but if I was to, right now, do it on the spot, what I'd do is I'd open this resource. I'd go to that place and I'd look it up, or I'd ask. And people are looking for honest answers. They're not necessarily looking, it's not a memory game. Now, Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, slightly different. You're up against the best of the best in the world. And as someone who interviewed at Apple and then interviewed people for Apple, the Apple interview is probably one of the most grueling processes, I would admit. It's very intense. But again, if you know what you're talking about and you're honest about the stuff that you don't, you'll be fine. And another tip for anybody who's ever interviewing for a technical company, this is something someone told me and taught me 6 years ago, a great man called Olu. I was working with him at the BBC. And I was talking to him about how I was nervous about an interview that was happening. It was actually the Apple interview. And he says, and I kind of expressed how I can't remember this particular part of what I know they will ask. And he says, write it down and take it in. I was like, I'm gonna, go to an interview with all these big shots with it. He said, write it down on paper and take it in and say, I know that this is important and I can't quite remember it off the top of my head, but in a working scenario, I'm not supposed to, I will Google very quickly, or I will pull up this piece of paper and reference it. And that is common sense. These people aren't robots. They're not horrible. They're not all horrible people. Let's be clear. They're not all horrible people. They're not, do you know what I mean? There are some extremely talented, very, very smart people, but there's reasons why this person's special, or that person's this, or that person's that, or that person leads, and then everybody else is part of the team. So write it on paper if you don't know, or if there's something you want to remember to say, and pull it out. It doesn't make you look anything but prepared. People have done it to me as I've interviewed them, and I've said, good for you. Because what do I expect? Because if you don't know, you're just going to tell me you don't know, and then I'm going to end the interview with somebody else in my next interview, and they're going to know, and then I'm going to have to start weighing the two up. Whereas if you bought your piece of paper, or if you bought your notes, or if you bought your reminders, you will answer me correctly, and then I'll be able to still compare my candidates accurately, right? So be honest in your interview, but also if you're going to a technical company, find where your skills, where what makes you special is relevant to that technical company. And if you can somehow twang it to how it can make them more money, you're in. No shout. You'll, yeah, well, I can do this, and it improves conversion. It reduces the amount of time. Time equals money. You save money. Boom, sorted. You're hired, type thing. But yeah, that's what I would say. I think that's what I'd say.
That's a lot of gems.
Yeah, sorry guys.
No, that was good. I'm like, I think I especially love the part about keeping like your notes, because there's a lot of, because I do that as well, because I and I think I only figured it out actually, sometimes interviews are a two-way process, and I bring my CV and I bring my notes and my notebook, as you mentioned, as you would to a meeting. So that is really, really important, that it's not like you're in the firing line. It's actually like a conversation, and you're going to give your best. I want to move to Abigail now. Some of your lessons learned in the interview stage?
Yeah, I think with interviewing, one of the key things I found is coming with ideas on how to better the company. So I've never been in an interview where I didn't find a fault before I got to the interview, and use that to my knowledge and to my benefit, actually. So, for example, the company I'm in now, I realized before I did the interview that they don't have a YouTube page, but the bigger company umbrella under them have a YouTube page. But what's stopping us from doing that? What's stopping us from, expanding digitally, whereas we're in a digital ecosystem? So I've come up with this idea now, which is causing me stress now, because now I've got the job. I now have to execute what I suggested. But having ideas where you think that the company can better themselves is always going to be a win for you, especially if it's a good thing. So it shows that you studied the company, and it shows that you've already thought of solutions for how to improve your future employment.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to end with Anu and Tony, and then we'll open it up to the audience Q&A. So Anu, if you want to just give maybe some of your insights.
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question again? I think.
Yes, no, it's all right.
Sorry.
We're talking about, I guess, I want to hear from you and Tony on the recruiter side, with your background in terms of being on the recruiter side, around just some tips and advice that you would give to people in terms of the application stand out and the interview process.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that actually I have had some great people in an interview process. So my last role at Amazon, I was specifically recruiting MBAs. And these are people who've done incredible things, have gone to some of the best MBA schools in the world, so smart, but they do not know how to talk about themselves, their projects, their careers. They do not back up anything they say with data, with any result. And that's it. They don't know. And I think that people overcomplicate interviewing. And I would say this now, interviewing at a tech company, unless you are a software developer and you specifically have to code and stuff like that, a lot of your interviewing will be the same as it will be in a media company, but maybe there'll be slightly different, but it will be the same. Unless you're a coder, that's a difference, but anything else, it falls outside of that, it will be relatively similar. But people don't look at interviewing as storytelling, and that's how I look at it. I look at it as storytelling. You are talking about your career. What have you done? And when you just look at it like that, it simplifies it and takes away that anxiety that comes with you having to talk about yourself. So more often in your day-to-day, you're just speaking about, you're just doing your job and you're just kind of going with the flow. And then you sit in an interview and realize that I actually have to talk in detail now. And people are not good at storytelling through the projects they've worked on. People are not good at saying, okay, this is why we did it. These are the data, these are facts, this is what things were before. And actually, because I did this, this is the result. It's really as simple as saying that. So if I ask you as an interviewer, I ask you a behavioral question and say, okay, so tell me about a time where you saw a problem and you were able to fix it, and you aren't able to clearly articulate a time you've done that, even if you've done that, but you can't speak about it. I've had so many interviews, like when we're in debrief and the interviewer knows the person had the answer, but if they don't say it, how are we supposed to fight for you? So I think it's sometimes what I do, even me as a recruiter, I recently hacked in, but about 6 weeks ago, I interviewed at Facebook. So what I just did, I was like, okay, let me write down all my projects again. And every job I do that, I keep the same notes. And every job I add all my projects. What was the issue? What were the problems? What were the data? What are the data points? How can I show that there was some results? And I just did that. And I just added all the stuff that happened in Amazon. And that's what I took to the interview. And I learned how to be able to talk about myself in a way that was straight to the point. So I wasn't babbling and was precise. So they understood the results. Even if they didn't understand the project or the technicalities, they understood what I was doing and why I did what I did. And I think it's as simple as that. So even if you are doing a cross-industry move and you don't have the experience, okay, but what have you done in your role? That could how can you tell that story of, actually, this is how it crosses. How can I tell that story? And I think it's just understanding how to storytell. So that would be my biggest tip. And that's honestly what's helped me, even as an interviewee and as somebody who also interviews. And has somebody who sits on debriefs with very senior people who get very frustrated when we have a great candidate who can't talk about themselves very good. So, yeah.
That's such a good gem, actually. I love that around when you're like keeping, I guess, a working document of all the projects that you've been on and looking at the data points. That's really, really, really good advice. Thank you so much for that. And Tony.
These are some absolute gems. I wish I had these early on in my career, especially what Anu said, because I don't know, amount of times I've had to turn people down who I knew could do the job, and it's devastating. But my biggest tip, and the thing I always used to tell candidates, and I know you touched upon this, Vanessa, is that interviewing is a two-way street. I know, especially for some of the top tech companies, you see a job and you get to the interview and you're like, I just want it so bad. I completely understand that. But you are interviewing them as well. They're not just interviewing you. You may go in there and the job isn't right for you. The organization is not right for you. The culture, the manager. Ask questions. Do not walk into this interview thinking that I just want the job and that is it. Because that is how people get themselves in bad work positions, and 6 months down the line, they're ready to leave. So be prepared to interview your interviewers, and they are prepared for that. They're prepared to hear your questions. They're prepared to answer them. Be assertive, be confident to do that. And it's okay to turn around and walk away from the interview and say, actually, this isn't right for me. even if it's a company like Google or Facebook or Amazon, it's okay to be like, this isn't right for me, and be prepared to do that. So that's the biggest thing I tell to my candidates all the time, because asking intelligent questions just demonstrates your curiosity. It demonstrates that you're interested. It shows the interviewer a lot, but also it helps you make the right decisions and ensures that you are taking a job that's truly right for you.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, so many gems. Like I'm literally just like absorbing all of the wisdom from all of our panelists. It's just been so wonderful. So we're going to now move on to the Q&A. We've got a lot of questions to try and get through this last part of the webinar. So I'll just try and sort of go through some of the ones that are more sort of going to be sort of generally applicable. So we've got a question here that says, younger people have time to get into something and learn things. For an older person with virtually no experience, but would love to have a career change, how can they get into tech? I love designing things, but I don't know what to do. That's a really good question. Any one want to answer that, or can think of some, you know, what would be your thoughts on that?
I'll just do this, add a quick note to that. As someone who just hired someone, I'm 28 and my lead developer is 43. And some people even, I'm not going to kind of boast myself, but some people also think I'm quite young, considering I look a little bit younger than I am. So even when it's time to interview people who are older, I get a little bit intimidated, kind of thinking, oh, geez, will they respect me because I'm that? But the idea is, I've met so many people who are older and just going straight into new tech roles. Now, the idea behind that is, what you have as being someone who's older is a wealth of experience I cannot even fathom. That's why hiring older people, I love doing it, because by even just applying, you know more about why you should be in the role than I do. You know everything, and there's so much experience that I have many years to accumulate. So you're actually in a really good position by wanting to make a move. I would say if you want to go for something quite specific, like a UI or a UX designer, there are loads of free part-time courses online. Do use things like, nothing's coming to my mind at the moment, but literally Google free UX UI courses. I know LinkedIn does one. So yeah, Tony, there you go. So yeah, there's loads of resources. Do a part-time 1 hour, 2 hours every evening course, and then build a portfolio. 3 examples of theoretical designs. If you're so into design, 3 theoretical designs of absolutely anything you wish. And what you'll do is you will apply to jobs with that portfolio. The great thing about design is, a lot of the time when someone's being called for a design role, they already have the job. We just want to verify that the person's real, not crazy, and can actually fulfill the job over the time period we need, because their portfolio speaks for itself. So get some relevant experience through free courses, and I'm specifying free here because everything I learned about my technical ability today was not paid for. I learned absolutely everything through textbooks, online, observing. So get a free course, do that over 2 months, 3 months, get a portfolio together, and then just start applying. Apply everywhere you could possibly find. And even if you take a short-term, fixed-term contract to get that level of experience and then move on from there, do that. But that's what I'd say.
Can I just add one thing to that as well? Really great point. A lot of companies, especially big tech companies, are also now doing apprenticeships. So specifically Google, and I don't know how many people know this, but Google actually has, when I left, they were building out their apprenticeship team, and they specifically do not look at age. And these are not just apprenticeships of people that are like 21 or 18, whatever. They are also looking for people who are mothers who left their careers to raise their children, and now they're coming back. So there are a lot of companies, I believe Deliveroo is also in the process of maybe building out an apprenticeship program. They specifically did one for software engineering recently, where they sponsored people to do, like, I think it was Makers Academy, and those people then now got a role as junior software engineers in their company. So there are a lot of companies who are willing to pay you to learn. So it's just looking for it. Honestly, there's so many apprenticeships. I know Thomas Reuters have always done apprenticeships. There's so many companies that do apprenticeships. And it's learning while you're on the job to really look at that, because the jobs are there. Just honestly, just search. Go on the career side, just search. It's there.
Yeah, that's a really good piece of advice. I think what you mentioned about returnships, but also like they kind of do the category. A lot of companies now, as the retirement age is increasing, and they're looking at sort of how do we keep older colleagues in the workforce. As Anu mentioned, they're doing a lot of programs where they'll actually like pay you to sort of do like new skills development. So Google returnships and have a look there. And it's not just like tech companies as well. I know in banking, their tech functions also are doing returnships. So even if you Google like some of the banks and then returnships, that should come up as well. But thanks so much to Anu and Tobi for answering this question. This can go to anyone in the panel. If you know, I might know the answer to this as well, but I'll put it to you. So we've got somebody who works as a PMO analyst, but they don't have much of a technical background, but they'd like to get into IT project management. They're not sure how to go about doing this. Any advice?
A project management course, like Six Sigma, Lean. Like I when I was doing that, I had I recruited contractors at the time, but I recruited PMOs who did that I can't even remember the name of it. Sorry, I think it's Six Sigma. Yeah. That's what it's called. That project management course. And then because of that, when they got into the interview, they were able to talk about things that they would do if they were given the chance to do those roles. So that's honestly a great way. I'm not sure necessarily on a route that's free, but that's like one thing I do know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. Yeah, project management course.
It's me again, and just I have a very specific example. When it comes to IT, because there is a need for technical understanding and contextual knowledge, a specific Scrum Master certification is what people look at. I know a lot of recruiters completely knock them out if they don't have a Prince 2 or something of that nature. But yes, I also agree with Anu. They're usually not free, but do something specific to being a Scrum Master, because project managers and Scrum Masters are exactly the same thing. Scrum Masters just have technical knowledge or technical understanding from those courses, and that's all.
Thank you. I'm going to put this question to Abigail. I'm just assuming you might be in the know about this. So I want to ask the question: how do you effectively network with existing employees at companies you'd like to get into within the tech sector without coming across transactional? So it's all about, networking and making contacts. What would be your advice?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a tricky one because, like you said, you don't want to come across as, I just want to take from you. But LinkedIn is your best friend. Twitter is your best friend. Engage with what they're doing. Engage with what, if they're posting things and you want to get involved, just shoot your shot. Shoot your shot actually works in a lot of aspects of life, not just relationships. It can actually work for, work environments. And just make sure you are keeping those connections once you've got them. So key people in your team or key people that you've met in uni, you never know what they can become. So having a large enough circle that, later on you can rely on is always good. But yeah, LinkedIn, network, go to networking events, COVID, but online ones like this as well. And when things do open back up, just find yourself going outside and just meeting people. That's the best way of introducing yourself and just showing up for things.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. We have another question for you, actually, Abigail, so I'll stick with you. What would be your advice on breaking into your field as a journalist in tech? Do you need a portfolio on tech copy content? Do you need to learn the technical jargon? Any tips would be appreciated.
Okay, so when you do start, they're going to understand that you don't know all the terminology, because I'm sure the person that employed you still doesn't know every single terminology in tech. So that's absolutely fine. Just be open to just show your willingness and show you're open to understanding the market and show interest. So for example, if you have an interest in cloud technology, show them that you have an interest, even though you might not know everything about the space. So for example, I started off at data centers. I didn't know what a data center was, but I decided, I'm going to go and see what a data center is, because I want to know where my data is being stored, and I want to know when things go to the cloud, where does it go? So just showing genuine interest. You don't need to it will come along as you write. The more you write, the better you become. And then you find yourself talking about Kubernetes and cybersecurity, and you're like, wow, I know this. And then you'll be boring your family because they'll be like, okay, well, what's all of this? But by the time you are inside it and you're involved, and you know, go to press meetings and press briefings, and you write down notes, and you know the jargon through that way, your writing will be spot on. So yeah, no need for, you know, there is no journalism tech course. There's fashion journalism, there's, you know, different kind of magazine journalism, but there's no actual technology journalist roles courses at university. So I can't even say, like, you know, project management and, you know, jump on a course. There is no courses. So you're just gonna have to learn along the way.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've got another question. I might direct this to Tony. Just somebody wants to just look at the time scale. How soon were you able to progress into new roles into tech? So you've had a few. How soon? What was the time frame for that?
This really varies from each person. So I came to LinkedIn in recruitment. I came in on a fixed term contract, and my contract ended bang in the middle of COVID, which was fun because it meant my transition was completely kabushed, in the gutter. So I started LinkedIn in 2019, around June. I started having conversations about my transition into sales in December 2019. Literally 6 or 7 months after. I'd made a point in those 6 months to walk up and down the floors of our building, introducing and speaking to as many people as possible. So most people in the London office knew who I were, especially the managers. So any event or any initiative that I had, I would try and get as many managers involved as possible from different lines of business. It allowed me to start having those conversations so early on in terms of me transitioning without it seeming like I wasn't dedicated to my current role, right? So from having those conversations in December 2019, I started interviewing for the roles around the next year. So I'd probably say around May 2020. COVID hit, unfortunately, all the roles got cancelled. I finished my fixed term contract and I didn't work for 4 months last year. But with that networking, with speaking to people, I maintained all my relationships at LinkedIn. And it meant that when the roles came back, I was first on the dial to get called up to interview. And I started my new role November 2020. So we're talking about a year in terms of the transition from the initial conversations to now. But what's really important there, and the bit of it that I really want you guys to concentrate on, is the networking piece. That takes time to build really strong relationships, for people to look at you doing one thing and to envision you with the ability to do something completely different. Take the time to invest in your relationships. It is a two-way street. You give as much as you get. So as much as these managers were speaking to me about roles in their teams and they were supporting me with my learning, introducing me to new people, I was bringing them in on events that I was doing. I was supporting them with their hiring, ensuring that I got a great diverse group of hirees into their teams. I was proving my worth in my current role, whilst also demonstrating to them I was able to take these skills into my new role. So really focus on that relationship piece, really focus on cultivating and growing those relationships, and don't let them fall, because you want to be the top of the mind, top of someone's mind when they think about a new job in their team. You want to be the person they think of. You want to be the person go, oh, yep, I've been speaking to her for a year, call her back in. So that's really important. So yeah, this a year, but it could have been a lot shorter if COVID hadn't hit. So I'm not going to really count that year.
It was made longer, but that's such a good piece of advice. I'm going to take that, because you know, you were very strategic in making sure that people who were in sort of like hiring manager positions were able to know who you are. And people kind of, sometimes you can get sort of stuck in doing your work and just, you know, producing your outputs, but you're right, sort of making sure everyone knows who you are. And I think maybe just thinking about how people can do this now in a hybrid type of working, where you're doing some days at home, some days in the office. That's a really good thing for our audience to think about.
And can I quickly just add one thing? Because I did say, like, I met a lot of managers, but don't miss out your peers, the people that are going to be your teammates, because they equally advocated for me to join their team when it came time, because I built relationships with them. Don't miss out the people that maybe on lower levels than you. You know, you don't always have to network up, network sideways, network to people that may be in more junior roles than you. Use every opportunity, because these are people that are going to speak to these managers and tell them who you are. So don't miss them out when it comes to your networking.
Really good point. Really, really good point. I'm going to give this question to Anu. When trying to get into tech, how do you demonstrate you are a good fit for the culture when you've come from the banking industry?
I think I'm going to probably say something that's a little bit weird. I'm not a big fan of the word culture when people try to talk about recruitment and culture fit and all that rubbish, because I've recruited for, you can be in the same company and I recruit for different teams within that company, and every team has a different style. Every team has a different culture or whatever. So there's not one company culture, if I'm being completely honest. I've been in companies where the team is just like someone will have a completely different experience in the company based on their team, their manager, everything. What I will say is it's down to what you believe your impact will be in that role, in that team. And I think it's down to you. You're never gonna, if I'm being honest with you, there's no scientific way of being able to know how to be a good culture fit, because you don't know the personalities of these people. You meet them for 1 hour in an interview. If you're doing back-to-back interview, you meet 3 people in 3 hours. So most of the time, it'll be very hard for you to specifically try to gauge the kind of person they want to be. My best advice is to just be yourself. Just be yourself and talk about what you've done. If you try to pretend to fit into their culture and you get that job based on you trying to fit in, and it's a culture that you hate, well, whose fault is that? They thought they were hiring someone else, and you come in as, and they're just like, hold on, this is not the person that we interviewed. Be yourself. Obviously, in an interview, you're going to be a little bit more perky, a little bit more like, oh my God, I'm so passionate. Oh my God, I live and breathe this company and this product and blah, blah, blah. But you just be yourself. And if they like you for you, that's great. If they don't, bye. Like, it's fine. Like, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. So I will say, don't try to look at it as trying to fit into a company's culture. Just see it as, where can I put my personality into? What can I add? Every company is like a cog system. All the cogs have to function in order for the company to work. So it's like, okay, where's my cog gonna fit? Where am I gonna fit into the grand scheme of things? So I think that's what you need to look at it as. Banking culture is very different, I will say that, but there is a lot that you can add from that in the sense of work ethic, in a sense of deadlines, stuff like that. So there's so many parts you can hit, but just be yourself, because you don't want to get a job that is from a team that all they like to do is talk about, rubbish, or everything's about certain things and you're not really into that. So yeah. Sorry, I know it doesn't really answer your question, whoever asked that question.
No, I think it's really good, because I think it just does give us, you're giving us an insider's perspective, so we value that. There's another question for you, Anu. Do you often entertain candidates, non-technical, that reach out, or actually any candidates that reach out on a speculative basis about roles that are not advertised?
Honestly, no, not everyone, because there's some people, so on my LinkedIn profile, it specifies what I recruit for. So in certain companies I recruit, and if the company is so big, I have people, so for example, I was recruiting MBAs, I only recruited MBAs at Amazon, and I had people reaching out to me about roles in America in software engineering. I recruited business roles within MBA, within EMEA. What am I supposed to know about that? So I just don't respond to the message, because I'm not going to be someone that's going to be screenshotted and put on LinkedIn, up to me out saying that I'm a rude recruiter, because everyone always likes to draw out recruiters on LinkedIn. But there are some people who are intelligent, and they do say, actually, I see that you recruit this role. I had somebody who was like, oh, actually, I've not started my MBA, but I'm going to be applying. When they applied, they got in, they're like, oh, I know, I got into this MBA course. I'm looking forward to seeing your presentation. Obviously, I'm not going to be there, but she was like, I'm looking forward to seeing your presentation in September or October, which would have been. And I was like, I kept track of her, and I would have kept track of her. So there are people who are like, this is what you recruit for. These are the recruiters I need to get to know, and they did it right. But there are some people who will look at recruitment profile, and this person, they say, oh, imagine I recruit university graduates, and I'll have like a senior product manager reaching out to me about a role. It's like, well, how am I supposed to help you? Do you think that all the hundreds, thousands of recruiters in one company meet up and we all know each other's roles? Like, it's not possible. So yes, when they do their research, and no, because I've had some people tell me to tell them the roles that they should apply for. Like, I'm their headhunter. Like, are you gonna pay me a fee for doing that? Like, I've had honestly, the amount of people I've had that have asked me, hey, I'm interested in working in this company, suggest some roles to me. Like, sorry, No one did that. What? So I will say,
everyone,
don't do that. Just do your research. If the recruiter is the right recruiter for you, they'll keep track of you. Even if they can't do something for you right then and there, but if they see you're a good candidate, they'll keep track of you. I've done that so many times where people have been able to come back 2 months later and say, actually, you weren't right for this role, but actually I've got this role now. Would you be interested? So yeah, if you do it right, it works. Not all the time. Just
do your research. Make sure that the recruiter is recruiting for your kind of specific roles that you're eligible for.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your honesty. We appreciate it. I think this is for, I think I might go to Tobi, but anyone else can actually chip in if you want to. Someone's looking for recommendations for any good companies that are hiring now. So I might add on a bit to this. If there's any kind of jobs boards or any kind of communities that post jobs that we can kind of just shout out in tech. I mean, I know that there are a few, like Hustle Crew is one, they have like a newsletter, and Out the Box, they have like jobs in tech. But I don't know, Tobi, if you kind of know any other companies, maybe sort of like startups or businesses that might be sort of hiring, or where they can look out for.
I think that's a really, it's a heavy question, that actually, but to answer directly, yes, Hustle Crew are great. People of color in tech are great. The standard CW Jobs is fantastic. CW Jobs hires for tech, within tech or IT companies, but a slew of different types of roles. The standard Read, LinkedIn is the beginning and end, in all honesty. The rest can fall to, Tony, I'm not doing this because you're here. I promise you, LinkedIn is the beginning and end of all anyone ever actually needs as we stand today. The others are a bigger piece. But just to chime in on a point I made very early on, if you have a specialist skill or you like a specific corporation or company, go there. My brother was recently looking for a job, and that was what I said, what do you want to do? He loved streetwear a lot. So we went looking at absolutely all streetwear brands, everything from Supreme to Size to End Clothing, and his SEO skills could be used in absolutely every single one of them. So and this is kind of me hammering on again on that point of, if you have a specialist skill, I think, because I'm even looking at some of the questions and a lot of people saying, I work for the NHS, or I'm a social worker, or I'm a this, I'm a that. You have a set of skills, and I think people are trying to put, kind of like bend what they have, their ability, into this technical field because it's booming and it's thriving, and you're just going to find yourself trying or kind of like pandering for something that is not necessarily for you. If you just say, I want to work for this specific kind of company, or this specific, there was a time I wanted to work for Coca-Cola because I heard that they gave great bonuses. So I went and they consistently had jobs. So I just went to coca-cola.com/careers and then just kept applying to the jobs there, because they have the fields of business analysts or IT or customer service or whatever, especially when you're talking about big companies or big corporations. So yes, use the directories. Social Fix is really good as well. They kind of pull things out for you. I think that's within creative though, but you can use the broader ones. But if there's something that you want to do, or a particular industry you want to work in, go there, look there, because there are a million jobs every single day. And I know it can be hard if you're looking for it. I've been in that position before. But if you try to narrow down your search as much as possible without kind of restricting your ability to find other roles, but also not giving yourself the entire world to look at, I think you'll find more success. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much. And I put Social Fix. Mercedes is part of our WTXL team, but I think I've seen some tech, maybe creative, but I'll put them in there in the chat as well. We Are the City Jobs as well, and Out the Box for jobs as well. But if anyone
Auto Jobs is actually a good one. It's a new one my friend introduced me to, and it's almost like the way they have it is like a mobile format, and it's almost, okay, I don't know if anyone's been on any kind of dating app, but it's like you type in what you want, salary and stuff like that, and literally they send you jobs and alerts, but you literally swipe left or right, and then it's actually quite a good one as well. But obviously, like you said, LinkedIn, if I'm being honest, and like everything's there. And Glassdoor is very good. Glassdoor is very good.
And can I just add, and Tobi, happy to hire you if you're looking for a job. Where you're advocating. You would come and do my job, don't worry.
We make a really good pair at this point.
But I will say, LinkedIn, absolutely. Go on there, create job alerts. Google alerts, job alerts are your best friend. You need to know when jobs are coming up. I will say, as much as LinkedIn is a great place to go and find jobs, we are also hiring, guys. It doesn't mean, please do not, as Anu said, bombard recruiters with questions about jobs. Look at our jobs boards. We are hiring. This is our search time where we do a lot of new hiring. So please go onto our career site, look at jobs there. There's a myriad of jobs, from recruitment jobs to sales jobs to marketing jobs. Please have a look and go to the events. So I hosted the first Black Recruitment Networking event. We made 2 hires from that. The 2 hires we made from that, those 2 amazing Black women hosted the second Black Recruitment Networking event, which we had just a few weeks ago, and they are looking to make hires from that. So please go to the events, connect with the recruiters at the events, and apply for jobs. Put yourself in companies' applicant tracking systems. Do not just email a recruiter about a job that you've seen. Apply for the job first, and then you can follow up with an email and say, I've actually gone through the process. I've applied. I'm interested. I just want to put myself on your radar. So many people that have to turn around and say, have you actually applied for the job? Have you gone on the website? Have you actually clicked on the job, read the job description, added your CV, etc.? Do that first. Do the work. Show that you're willing to do some work. Do the work, and any job is available to you. Most of these companies are large companies. If you think that they need something, they probably do. Legal, marketing, sales, tech, hairdressers, pedicures, manicures, salespeople, baristas, people that work in the kitchen. Every single job is available to you.
The market is really good right now. I will say that jobs market is very good right now, and there are so many roles, and you'll be surprised about what you can find if you really look. There's so many jobs.
Someone in the chat has asked, sorry, about the app. What was the name of the app?
Otto Job.
Otto.
Right. Okay. Otto. I think it's Otto, like the animal. Is that an animal? I think Otto.
O-double-T-O.
No. Yeah. Otto Job. Hold on, sorry. I'm just putting it into Google quickly.
Whilst you're searching, Tobi, you went to say something.
Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to hammer on that point. I kid you not. If you have a skill, or if you're in an industry where you don't want to be in that particular job anymore, but you want to still use those skills, there is a tech company that needs your services. Someone that says, I work in social work. A lot of big tech companies, if not all of them, offer everything from therapy to now, because of the pandemic, there are a lot of companies that are investing into mental health support, right? And being able to manage or support people in the companies with their mental health. And that's not something they're just where they're gonna get those people from. I know a guy that used to fill up the vending machine at all of Apple's offices, and he made 100K a year. And he was a vending machine refiller. It was his title. Therefore, if you can open up and have some coins, if you can open up a cha-ching and put some quavers on a rack, you, my friend, are in for a career.
We can enter the building.
I'm telling you, I'm sure he will never give up that job, but he's not the only one, There will be other companies that will need exactly the same service. So take your skills and find a technical company or an IT company, or even just a large conglomerate that wants that particular skill set, and you'll be fine. Trust me, it works.
Thank you so much. Anu, was it Otto?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. Otto Job. Yeah, otto.com. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
O-double-T-A. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Otto.com. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, time is gone. You know what? This has just been absolutely phenomenal, magical. It was more than what we could have really even imagined. We want to leave our audience with your last parting words. So I will just go through our panelists. What's the one thing that you kind of want our audience to take away after listening to all of your gems? What's the one thing you want them to take away? Shall I start with Anu, because you're on my screen. I don't know. What's the one you want us to take away?
I think that don't feel like you will not belong in these companies. There's a space, and I think they're not going to make it for you, so you have to make it yourself. You belong there. And I'll tell you now, there are people with the biggest qualifications, MBAs, everything, and they still get imposter syndrome. So they have all that qualification, all the experience, and then you can even be white and they'll still be like, I still feel imposter syndrome. So it's very normal to feel that way, but I literally generally just applied on the website, and I didn't do anything special in my application process when I first kind of got my foot in the door. So if I can do it, there was nothing special that I did. The opportunity is there. You just have to keep on going. Honestly, I didn't stop until I got my foot in the door. And I think it's just literally just keep on going, like literally make a space for yourself there. Sorry, that's about as wise as I can get.
That's amazing. Keep on going. Thank you so much. Abigail, last part words.
My last thing would be, my mum always told me that if you enter a job, don't try and be liked, but make sure that they need you. So it's not about, making all the office friends, but as long as they need you, you are, progression is there, job for life is there. I remember when I left my old role, it took them almost 3 months to stop messaging me because of the amount of things that me leaving has also removed from the company. So I became such an asset that they couldn't even find someone that would be able to replace my role and then some. So just make sure that you are doing above and beyond. And that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Tobi, last words.
I'm gonna be quite relevant to the fact that all the women on this panel, all the people on this panel are women, and they're also Black women, to open up the door or the conversation for the fact that technology, the field, the companies, the industry is still very much dominated by white men in every aspect. As a founder, as a developer, as an employee, I've seen it consistently. Being on this call is the first time I've seen a Black female technical writer. Abigail, God bless you. So I want to say to people on this call, especially if you are Black or from an underrepresented group, push yourself into these places. I know a lot of people have said or written questions that have said, but I have this skill and blah, 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 blah. Move into these technical spaces because these jobs are waiting for you. We have this innate kind of hesitation towards going for things that look or seem bigger or above us. When in actual fact, the people that are in there are exactly the same. Half of us don't know what we're doing, or we're too scared, or we're figuring it out. When I tell you your favorite digital products were made by Googling for the majority of the time, that's how life works. So I'm not saying try and be like a doctor and like Google or something, and all you have is like a sociology degree. No, take your skills that you have and utilize them and point them towards companies that you think you will enjoy, that you have the skill set for, and that you can make a change. And Abigail made a really great point as well, in the sense that make sure they need you. Go in there and just be good. Like, I'm not going to give the whole, we have to be better or whatever. Not that part. The part about, because sometimes being mediocre is okay. Do the part of just being good at your job, because that's what you get paid to do. And let them send you emails after you've left and ask you, well, what is this? What is that? So move into these spaces and move in rapidly. People are hiring left, right, and center. The pandemic is economy. People are hiring. Everyone is. So go into there and go with your whole chest. Like, so what? The people are there and they look intimidating, whatever, get over it and just kind of push on. But that's my 2 cents.
Amazing. So many gems, so many gems. Tony, no pressure, Tony, no pressure. But are you gonna give us the fire?
I know, it's gonna be hard to top all of that. The one thing I would say is be you. I have walked through my whole career being myself, and don't get me wrong, sometimes that has hindered me. I've had people really be like, no, we're not with this. But I'm here. And I'm in this position by being myself. Once you get into that organization, you are valuable. They've already hired you. Now be who you are and make sure people know you are who you are. Don't be fearful. Don't be intimidated. Don't be scared. Everyone started from somewhere. Even your CEO started from somewhere. So be who you are, whether that be a loud, quirky person. I'm very well known in the office for, we can hear Tony on the other end of the office, laughing, cackling half the time. Or I'm known for my earrings. What earrings is Tony going to wear today? It shows my personality is who I am. Don't be afraid to just be yourself. Don't let these companies take away from you. And so many of us walk into companies and we code switch and we change ourselves, we bend, and we lose so much of ourselves. Don't let them take away from you. You are valuable. Use who you are to add to that company. They need it. So just be yourself.
Thank you so much. I mean,
yes.
what a way to end. All of it. Be you. And that's just really what we wanted this event to really just, you know, the whole ethos about it is, yeah, just definitely be yourself, be you, be true to who you are. And, you know, to our panel, we just want to say a huge thank you for giving up your evenings to really just bless our community and our church and WT. It's been amazing. I would just like to thank everyone that's joined in, that's interacted. We've got we've had just over 80 people on the call. That's been fantastic and amazing. So thank you for trusting us to give you some gems this evening. We've got a feedback form in the chat. So this is the start of our career ministry. So we really are kind of learning as we go, and we really would value your feedback. So if you can take a few minutes to let us know what you enjoyed and what we can do to make our events better, that would be great. To close, Stella's just going to do a short closing prayer, and then we will end the event. Over to you, Stella.
I just want to say thank you so much. This has been an amazing event, and you know, when God is present, events like this can happen. So I just want to thank you all. As we said before, we didn't plan for it to be an all-female panel, but God is here, God made it happen, and you know, he always knows best. So I'm just going to close us in a short prayer. If you just bow your heads and close your eyes. Thank you very much, Lord Jesus Christ, for this event. This event's been amazing, and I know that people have been blessed. I just pray, Lord, Father God, that after we all leave here today, that we will take into account all the advice and tips, Father God, Lord. I pray, Lord, that every attendee, Father God, will feel encouraged, Father God, Lord. They won't be susceptible to all the barriers, Father God, Lord, because we know that with you, all things are possible, Father God. And I just thank you, Lord, for blessing us with this amazing panel. I thank you, Lord, for this ministry. I thank you, Lord, for our pastors, Father God, Pastor Ty and Pastor Femi, for allowing this ministry, Father God, to go ahead, Father God. And I just pray that you continue to bless in each and every one of us. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Stella. And to everyone, thank you so much. Don't forget to do your feedback forms, and we'll see you very, very soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
We don't care if you like it. We'll keep it moving till the night's up. In bed if you wanna bite us. We'll shut it down and put the lights up. Oh, na, oh, na, oh, na, na. Oh, na, oh, na, na. Oh, na. I see you watching me party, really and truly. When we go out, we don't watch nobody. It's never ever felt this. 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 Never ever felt really and truly.